Stadium, Lawrence Frank says the team wants to bring back Paul George and James Harden, and that Kawhi's inflamed knee is, quote-unquote, big picture minor. So, here we go again. Rick, what are you hearing? What are you thinking about next year's Clippers?
Yeah, I'm hearing the same in terms of what they want to do. Part of this is because those guys came to the Clippers to play together. And if you pull the thread and you let one of them go, there's a question as to how the others are going to feel about wanting to stay as well. I believe, however, it is a matter of we don't have better alternatives. As much as I don't believe in this combination because I don't have that guy who can close games, who I trust is the decision maker at the end of games when you get into ISO, or can make other guys better. Every one of those guys has to have the ball in their hands to be at their best. And so what happens is whoever you give the ball to, they become very predictable. This is who's going to try to get it on his own. And they just haven't been able to win that way because the other guys aren't threats off the ball. So it's a matter of where can we get that guy? Where can we get a guy that we could bring in that these guys will respect, that we can put the ball in his hands, and he's going to be the decision maker at the end of games. I don't know that that guy exists in the league right now. So the alternative is to say, let's keep the band together and see if somehow we can stay healthy and someone's going to mature. James Harden is not going to disappear. Paul George is not going to turn the ball over. Kawhi Leonard is going to stay healthy and be available. Because the alternative is we can't find the missing piece out there. But do I believe in it? No. I announced that I was stepping off of the Los Angeles Clippers train at the beginning of this year. I had seen it enough times where I looked at the talent, I looked at it on paper, and I said, This should be one of the best teams in the league. And yet, time after time after time, they fall short. At some point, you just have to accept they are who they are.
Okay. I'm not a Clipper fan, Skip, by no stretch of the imagination.
Clipper Keyshawn, that you are.
However.
You do love your four SoCal guys, though.
Yeah, however, they are going to run it back and bring it back. Everybody's coming back to the party. Ty Lue, all of them, they get their money. Now, whether or not Kawhi gets a 221 extension versus a little bit less, whatever, but they're coming back. And the reason that you talk about they haven't been as good as advertised, no, they really have. They were the 4th seed this year. I mean, how much higher, could you go? The problem that they have is much like you said, Rick, it's the big H word, health. Kawhi fell apart right on schedule, right at the right time when they're rolling into the playoffs. If he's healthy, if you get the healthy Kawhi Leonard, and you talk about the guy who's the closer, the dagger, all those sort of things, it's Kawhi Leonard. They got the guy. The problem is he can't help the club in the tub. So they got to figure out how to figure that knee out, whatever it is bothering him. They got to figure that out. Because when they were on the court together, man, they was something to be reckoned. There was a stretch right there. They were the best team in the NBA.
26-5, I think.
Yeah, they were the best team in the NBA. But the health is the major issue. When they were on the floor together, you didn't need to move James Harden from the 3 to the 2 or even the 1. He could stay at the 3 and be just doing what he was doing. And they were 20-something and 5 doing what he was doing. Then the moment that Kawhi got hurt, he got slid into a different role, so to speak, right, Rick? And then it was like, oh, God. And then he had the one game, obviously, I was like, oh, yeah, we rolling. And then the last 2 games against Dallas, it was kind of like right on time again for everything that Skip has been preaching and Paul Pierce has been preaching about James not being able to live up to those late playoff season kind of negative outputs, so to speak, But I think this team, I think if they could stay, it's the if. They could stay healthy. If they could have just stayed healthy throughout the playoffs, we would still be talking about them today.
Look, Keyshawn, I love Kawhi. I do not love and have never loved his fragility because he's just fragile, and I can't explain it. This came out of nowhere. He suddenly had an infection in his knee. for no apparent reason that they can figure out, it got infected. And long term, it should be no big deal, but are you going to trust that he's going to be there for you next year?
You have to.
In playoff times? Because
You
you're
already-
stuck.
you already gave him the money.
You gave him the deal. Can he overcome a James Harden and a Paul George in the biggest playoff moments? Because I'm going to be harsh with this, but they both have, in the biggest playoff moments, loser intangibles to me. Low basketball character when it matters the most. When you most need to trust them, you cannot. And we don't have enough show for me to walk you through all the moments, all the epic fails on both their parts, but especially on James's parts. And Keyshawn, you weren't here yesterday, so I'm going to hit you with just one small detail. If we just look at the 2 games he played last year for the Philadelphia 76ers against Boston, it was games 6 and 7. They're up 3-2 with a home game in game 6, and then they had to go to Boston for game 7. Let's take those 2, and let's take this year's 2 biggest games. It's game 5 at home. You're tied 2-2 with the Dallas Mavericks, 2-2 at home, and then you have to go to them for game 6. I'm going to take those 4 games for James Harden, and I'm going to total up what he did in those 4 crucial games. He shot 2 for 24 from 3 in those 4 games. 2 for 20. That's 8%.
Look,
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
I don't need you to remind me of that.
From the floor, he shot 14 of 65. That's 22%. He should move to Vegas and become a disappearing magic act. Now you see him, now you don't, because that's what he does. He disappears right on schedule. Paul George is a really good guy, and I love his sort of just his off-the-court character. But, man, when it's time, when these 2 needed to rise and shine and pick up the slack for Kawhi, they just can't do it.
And that may be the case, Skip. Maybe James Harden is not in that position or that role where he can do that, okay? Man. Maybe if he was just the guy at the 3 for them, the 3 spot for them, we wouldn't be having these conversations. Maybe he's more comfortable. Now all of a sudden he gets pushed up and he just collapsed.
And
maybe that's the case.
After their game 5 loss, I'm watching Barkley and Shaq, and they're blasting Paul George for how blasé he was after the game. It's no big deal. We'll get him in game 6. You know, he doesn't seem to take it that seriously. It's kind of his nature and his attitude. Go ahead.
But who does the Clippers? Who does?
I'm not a Clipper fan,
but this is my issue. Like, even if Kawhi is healthy, Kawhi is not a leader. He's not a guy who rallies
There's
the
nothing
troops.
vocal about him.
And it's
but I don't need Kawhi to do that because I got Westbrook, so I'm good.
Russ is coming off.
He's coming off the bench. All of that, though, Rick. But in the end, his voice speaks volumes, regardless to where he's at on the depth chart.
What I need is someone who speaks and also is composed to say, this is how we're going to do it in this situation. And Russ, will give you the fire, but he doesn't give you the reins. And that's what's always been missing, is that when they hit a bump in the road, who gathers them and says, this is how we're going to play to get through this? That's why they can have these big leads. They can show you how dynamic and explosive they can be, and then they just get walked down, which is what the Dallas Mavericks did to them, what the Denver Nuggets did to the Los Angeles Lakers. Like, you know what? You can go ahead up by 20, 25,
32 at one.
But you know what? We're gonna get back in this. Because we can execute.
And by the way,
most.
Keyshawn, the Athletic reported that getting Russ to come off the bench was no walk in the park for Ty. It was no behind the scenes. It was.
I heard that was just a bunch of nothing, but okay.
Okay. Well, Russ posted that it was a bunch of nothing.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Instagram,
See, there you go.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I heard it was a bunch of nothing. I'm just saying.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.